Hey D211. So I'm going to show you how to model this buggy to give you a couple of commands that I hope will help you when you're building your own car in your own design. You'll see on here, these are some of the commands we're using. We're using picture to bring in the images. We're using scale to get those images to the right scale. We're tracing using polylines, interpolate curves, circles, basically any of these tools over here in your toolbar. If you hold down on the triangle, you'll find extra. So there's lots of different ways you can make super accurate lines, but I'm just using some basic ones to start. We'll be extruding curves, revolving curves, using sweep 2, makes them planar surface, extruding those surfaces, also using a basic extrude, scale 1D, rotate, and loft. So those are that's some of what we're going to be going over. This is the finalized version. I'm going to start a new file. So I'm going to go to Rhino 8. And I'm going to select a small object is anything smaller than a truck. So I'm going to do small objects, feet, inches, and that should open this right up. I can double check that. So if I'm in here, I can type in units and I can see that I'm in feet and feet in inches over here. I'm going to make my display precision a little bit better. I can do 1/16. Okay. So in top view, and really you could do this in any view, but I'm going to choose top view. I'm going to type in picture and I'm going to bring in this cart technical drawing that is posted in Canvas. So I click and click again to bring it in. I now am going to reduce the opacity of this to make it easier to trace. So I'm going to select this, come over to my properties, come over to material, and bring that transparency down a bit so it's not quite so bright. Great. I need to scale this before I do anything else. So I'm going to select it, type in scale, and luckily there's measurements on here. This one we think says 1040 and I think it's in millimeters. So I'm going to select here at the end of the dimension for my first point, over here at the end of the dimension for my second point, and then type in 1040 mm for millimeters and hit enter. Now it should be the correct size. I can check by doing distance, DIST, clicking here, clicking there, and that's about 2 feet, which seems like a good amount of space for like feet to be in. So I think it's about the right scale. I now want to lock this down so that I can trace it. So I am going to, or actually let's get all of our pieces set up and then we'll work on tracing. So I want to split this drawing up so that I can trace the different pieces. So I'm going to grab a line and draw from here to here. Then select this, type in split, type in my line, select my line, and now this is in 2 pieces. So I have my side view and my back view. I'm going to do that one more time for this plan view. So again, I'm going to draw a line from here to the back. I only need this one split, so I'm going to select this, type in split, split, there we go. Select cutting objects, this is my cutting object, now that's separate. I don't need this line here anymore, and I don't need this line, so I'm going to delete those up. I'm now going to get these into the right position. So I'm going to select everything, and then in my, and there's different ways to do this. I can do a rotate 3D, I could rotate up in right view. So I'm going to start out rotating in right view just to give us practice in using the 4 viewports instead of only working in perspective. So I'm going to type in rotate, use the bottom, this is my center of rotation, this is my top, and then bring it straight up. You'll notice down here I have ortho on, I have O-snap on, I have gumball on. Those are all helping me. And then over here under my object snaps, I have everything checked except for center and disable. All right, in perspective view, I now am going to select this end piece and I'm going to rotate this. So I type in rotate. My center of rotation is going to be the middle right here. And I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. Now I'm going to move this so it's centered in the wheel. I can use this red. Now notice on the gumball there's these different pieces. If I'm moving, I just want to select the arrow, nothing else. So I'm going to select this red arrow and move it back until I'm looking like I'm pretty aligned there, and I can go here and kind of look and just make sure it looks like it's about where I want it. That looks good to me. And then my only criticism is that it looks like the wheel isn't actually aligned. Like you can see this line of the road is not the same as that. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to use the blue to move it down until they look a little closer to a line to me. So I'm going to move that down. That looks slightly better. Okay. So now this plan view also needs to get put into place. So for this one, I'm going to do a rotate 3D. So I type in rotate 3D. And it asks me for my rotation axis. I want to turn off project here. I'm going to select the ends of this drawing as my rotation axis, then click the bottom here and move that up. And that's already at the midpoint, and this is only half of a plan because it's symmetrical, so that's already in the right place. Now all of these things are in the right place, so I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to double click on layer 1. I can rename this if I right click. I can rename and call this trace. And I'm going to lock my default so that I'm not messing with this anymore. Okay, great. So now that this is here, I want to trace some of these lines. It would be helpful if this were actually like located on my planes. So maybe I need to move it first. So I'm going to select this whole thing and type in move. And then I'm going to select this middle here and type in 0, 0, 0 and hit enter. So now if I do Z enter for zoom and then S enter, that gets me selected there. I can also do Z enter, all enter, S enter, and then that will zoom it on all those things. So now everything's kind of more or less on plane. It might have made more sense to do it at the intersection, so let me do that one more time. I'm going to select all this stuff, type in move, and then I want to see where it has like this apparent. Can I get the intersection of these? So if I have like this point, okay, I'm going to move that to 0, 0, 0 and hit enter. Okay, great. So now I'm going to lock that and I'm on my trace layer. In my front view, I'm going to trace the outside circles. So I'm going to grab this circle tool and I'm going to put those in. This is the one time I would want center on, because if I do that, I can just hover towards the outside of this and I know that these will have the same center. Okay, I'm going to trace this. So I'm going to hold down and grab my interpolate curves. And here, I'm not going to worry about the ends. I'm just going to go ahead and trace the top. There's many different ways to model things. I'm just showing you one. I'm sure there's also better ways to do this. But the goal is to show you a couple of different ways. So here I'm making myself 2 rails that I'll use. I'm tracing those in. I'm also going to want kind of this piece here as a closed curve. So kind of this piece plus that. I want this as a closed curve, and I want the shape of the basket as a closed curve. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I'm just going to get in the basics. So I can even do something as simple as rectangle tool just to get this about in the right place. And I can rotate it. So I type in rotate. So I can rotate that to get that a little bit, looking a little better. And then over here, I wanted this to be one shape, I said. So I'm going to hold down, get interpolate curves. And here I am tracing that shape. Here I might want to turn off center because sometimes center will bring your cursor very far away and it's a little frustrating. So I'm coming straight up to here. At this point, I'm going to hit my space bar and grab my polyline tool because I'm moving to have all straight things from here on out. So I'm going from here to here and back around. hit enter. I can then select this and this curve, and I'm going to type in J for join, and it says that it's all one closed curve, which is good. That's what I want to hear. I also do like to check and just make sure I'm actually drawing on the plane I think I'm drawing on, which I am. I could also turn project on to make sure that I'm not going all over the place. Okay, so the last thing I want to draw in this particular view at the moment is a plane representing this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this simple again. I'm just going to trace the very outsides of this with my polyline tool. So not getting into too much detail, just putting that in. Okay, so that's everything I need here. And I'm going to start moving things into place. So I'm going to start out with the wheel. I'm going to select this as well as this, and those I might not wind up using, but I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to go into my right view, type in M, enter, and here I will turn on project just so I don't move things inadvertently in a view I don't mean to, and I'm going to move those over to here. Then I'm going to type in rotate, and I'm going to click on the bottom here for my base point, click on the top, and then hold shift to toggle off my ortho so that I can rotate that to there. Excellent. I'm only going to build half of this at a time because it's symmetrical, so then I can just I can very easily duplicate it by mirroring it. So now that I have this here, I'm going to select these two and do an extrude curve to make a solid wheel. So I'm extruding my curve. I want to look in right view as I'm doing this to check what that width is and make sure that it says both sides no, solid yes. Okay, great, so that's in. Next, I want to put in this piece that kind of holds the wheel in place. So to do that, I need to look at this back view. So I'm going to make a couple things. I'm going to take a line and I'm going to go from this midpoint and I'm going to come out, and keeping that more or less in the center, I'm just going to draw a line. And then this I'm going to pipe, and I'm going to give it a 1-inch diameter, or 1-inch radius rather, and hit enter. And so now if I look at that in 3D, that's now coming out. I then want to create this piece, so I'm going to go back into right view, put on my polyline, and here I'm going to trace the outside. Okay, I'm just shy of that. Okay, great. This point looks like it's not quite right. I can just edge that out a tiny bit. Okay, now I'm going to do a revolve to make this round. So I'm going to type in revolve. My revolve axis is going to be this essentially. So I'm going to try to stay right on that line. If I hover to the end of this, hit tab, it'll keep following that line. And then my start angle is 0 and my revolution angle is 360. So now if I look in 3D, I have this wheel, I have this thing it's rotating on, which looks like it's slightly off where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to select this and just move that over. And that looks better. And then this also looks like it's in the wrong place because that should be right in the middle. So I'm going to make sure I'm keeping the red on there and moving that right over. Okay, that's looking a little better. So next thing I want to work on is this piece that I think connects to the horse. I don't know a whole lot about these things, but there's some changes that need to happen for this to work. So you'll notice that right now these are traced very nicely in elevation, but if I look in plan, they're supposed to be aligning with this piece here, and it certainly doesn't do that yet. So I'm going to select these two lines, and I'm going to type in rebuild. And I'm going to rebuild them with, let's do 20 points. And let's just preview it first to make sure they still look pretty good. That should be enough, and then hit OK. All right. So first, I'm just going to move all of them down so that they're in line back here, right? Because these don't really need to move very much. They look like they're pretty good. Then I'm going to select these two and type in points on. And this is going to allow me to select these points and move them one by one. So if I select all of these ones, if I select over here, let's see, these are fine. I think they actually all need to hang on. This all should have moved over a tiny bit more. I really want that centered there. Okay, that's looking better. So it looks like around here is when I need to start curving. So I'm going to select the line, type in points on, and then I'm going to select these, and then with my gumball tool, click and drag and just move those over so that they stay in the middle of that that piece I'm seeing. So I'm clicking and dragging. And the reason I rebuilt the curves is so that these lines, since they're about the same length, I knew that that would allow these control points to be in about the same location, just to make things a little bit easier. So I'm moving this up. Okay, all of these I'm going to move up because they're all kind of low, so I'm going to move those kind of up at once. And then further adjustment can happen. So these both need to move up. This needs to move up. Okay, and this needs to move up. So if I look in my side view, it looks like nothing has changed. If I look in my perspective view, you can see that they're starting to curve. I'm going to use something called a sweep 2 to give this a little bit of volume so that it's not just two lines. And I'm going to use kind of an oval for a cross section. So I'm going to use a line from here, oops, turn off project, from here to here on the end, and then from here to here on the other end. And then I'm going to draw a little oval here. So I'm going to go over to my drawing tools, use this line to get my midpoint, end point, and have a little oval at the end. And then on the other end, same deal. So midpoint, end point, and give it a little bit of maybe more thickness here. So now it has like some roundness. Now I'm going to type in sweep 2. So that means a sweep with two rails. My first rail is the top. My second rail is the bottom. My sweep shapes are going to be this one at the front and this one at the back. And then I hit enter. And I'm going to hit enter again. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit OK. All right, so that's all done. Next, I want to worry about this carriage piece. So I'm going to look at the side of this first. I decided just to define this as a plane. So I'm going to select it and type in plane or surf. And now you can see it as a plane. Then I'm going to go into my right view and I'm going to move it over. So I'm going to type in M, enter, make sure project's on here, and I'm moving it over to the side. And I want to curve this so that it follows that. So I'm going to type in, rotate from here. This is my top, and then I'm going to bring that out to the side. So now that's there, I'm going to, and you know, that doesn't look like it's in the right place because I feel like that should be inside of this. Maybe it does go outside of that. I feel like that's supposed to be like here, and maybe it doesn't have a curve at all. Or maybe it does. This is me not knowing anything about carts. I'm going to leave it on the outside because it shows a different scale. So I have this surface here, and instead of doing an offset, I'm going to do an offset surface. Instead of doing an extrude, I'm going to do an offset surface. So I'm going to do offset surf. I need to make sure I spell it right. Offset SRF. Okay, and I'm going to do 1 inch and hit enter, and that's going to give that side a little profile. Next, I'm going to work with this closed curve. This one I'm just going to extrude until it hits here. So I can look at this in back view. I'm going to extrude it, and I'm going to let it out until it hits this line. So now I have kind of that seat shape taking hold. Same thing with this one. I'm going to extrude that until it comes to there as well. And I can reference this. I can kind of hover over that so that they're exactly the same. Okay, great. I think that's everything I built over here. So the last thing is this, this canopy piece, right? So we need to put that in. I'm going to get the cross sections of it from the back elevation. And And then I'm going to use the side elevation to rotate those into place so I can show it in an open view. So let's go ahead and I'll go into my right view where I have the back really. So I'm going to click here, get my interpolate curve. I'm going to trace this one. So I'm going to start here, come straight up again. And here I'm just holding shift to negate my ortho. And I'm bringing this over. Now I think I don't have this centered right, because this is where like the center is showing and I'm over here. So my whole thing is going to be wider than it's supposed to be, but everything's already modeled like that. So I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so now I have this piece here and it's all in one plane. Great. So I'm now going to come into front view and you'll notice it doesn't align with anything in front view. So I'm going to rotate this up. I'm going to move it so that this is, we'll start with the front. So we're going to move this one here and rotate it. So that's being where I'm rotating from, and then come to here. And then I'm going to do scale 1D from the top until I can't see this anymore. Great. Now I'm going to copy this from here to here. I'm going to rotate it. And do scale 1D from here to here. Okay, next one. So I'm copying this. I'm typing in copy, moving this over, and then I'm going to rotate this, using this as my top, as my rotation point, and then bringing this back around to here. And I guess maybe I'll use this point instead and rotate it there. So I'm kind of using the back edge of that one. And then I'm going to copy this over to here. I'm going to rotate this from up here to over here. And here I'm going to do a scale 1D to get that down to there. And this one, actually, I think I do want this at the front because all the other ones are at the front. So let's keep that kind of consistent. Okay, so now I have those kind of describing that shape. I'm going to loft them. But first, actually, I think I want a mirror before I loft that, so that can be one piece. So I'm going to select everything and then type in mirror. And my mirror plane is going to be the middle, so I'm going to bring that right over. And you will notice that everything is a little too wide, right? Because these are all past their points here. That is what it is. Okay, so then over here, I want to join these curves together. So I'm going to click and drag to get those four curves and join them. And then I'm going to loft them. When I loft, I want to make sure I select in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm clicking at like approximately the same point at there so that it comes out nice and clean. There are different styles of loft, so I could do like a loose one, a tight one to really get the curve exactly right. A uniform one. There's different options, but I'm just going to leave mine at normal and hit OK. Alright, so I'm going to hide my default layer, and then I'm going to select all my curves and delete them. So I'm going to do select curve and delete, and there's my buggy. So you can save this and upload them to the classroom assignment from 131.